Hello and welcome to Super OK, where we try to do a decent enough job to entertain people with our opinions on video games. My name is Dale, and as always, I am joined here by the lovely Brodie. Brodie, how are you doing?
Hey Dale, I am doing good. I'm doing good. We're two-man in this week. We've got a kind of a little bit different episode here. I'm excited for it though.
I was just about to say, like, we're doing a little weird thing here, because normally we try to keep our episodes evergreen, right? Where you can kind of go back and, you know, we talk about FPSs and we talk about the history of Halo and we talk about like an episode that is essentially timeless. But we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to recap the recent video game awards today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just a couple days out, you know. So they happened. We're recording this on a Sunday. They just happened on Thursday, so we've had some time to kind of marinate, if you will, in the results and all the things that went down. So we're gonna
soak up the juices.
Yeah, get those juices. Super OK marinade edition.
I love it.
What the fuck are we talking about?
Before we do that, though, we're gonna continue with our traditional format of doing a highlight of the week, which is just something that, you know, makes your week a little bit brighter, a little bit better. What do you got for us?
So this week is just a game that I picked up that I had my eye on for a while because like the premise appealed to me, and I have no shame apparently in just making my backlog fucking ridiculous. It's so bad right now. But I did pick up a copy of Dragon Quest Treasures for the Switch. And it is a game that very much is like kind of Ni no Kuni meets like Sea of Thieves in a way. Not the Sea of Thieves in like that there's other players.
I've never heard anything about this game, so
yeah, so it's of course based on the Dragon Quest kind of sets of characters and everything like that, all the enemies and stuff. And so basically what you do is you go around to like a big open world and you collect monsters, and every monster that you recruit as part of like your 4 monster team enables you to do a thing in the overworld. And by a thing I just mean like if you have a slime, the slime will bounce you up super high, so you can have like a super jump, and that helps you get to certain areas. If you have like a Draki or a bat or something, you can glide off of from one area to another, so that allows you to like not take fall damage. If you have one that has a stealth perk, it basically turns you into a little shadow, and then you can get under things that are really low, so you can go in and get like treasure chests. And honestly, the premise of the game is like all based around things that is just like they're like, oh, there's this island that looks like a dragon corpse and it's full of treasure, and you just go get the treasure. And like, I just want to be clear that like this game has some issues. This falls into the same category as like performance issues on Switch, but like they probably could have avoided that by optimizing the engine and stuff like that. It doesn't have any of the like really game breaking glitches that I've seen so far. It's just it's a pretty light, fun game. And if you like digging up treasure, that's like all this fucking game is so far. Your monsters fight, you dig up treasure. That's about it.
Is this a game for children? It sounds like.
I mean, I could see that. It tries to be very kind of cutesy with like the way the monsters all, because they're kind of the way that Dragon Quest handles monsters is kind of like Pokemon, except they're way more talkative. So they don't just say their own name. They like will wander around the world and say things like, I sense treasure nearby. Or like if you're a slime, they all make goo puns. They're like, it is such a goo day. And it's like annoying as fuck, if I'm being honest with you. But it's I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun with it, even though it is a flawed game. It's a nice, light little RPG thing, and I like it.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. The more you talk about it, the more I hate it.
Cool. Go ahead and skip it.
Is it And you mentioned it's like Pokemon fighting, like the combat is turn based.
No. It's more like the original Ni no Kuni, where like your monsters are deployed and not really the original Ni no Kuni, but you just have 4 monsters that run around the open world with you, and they just fight with shit that's around them. You can give them orders to like get close to you or to like go attack shit or like whatever, but for the most part, they just orbit around you as you're going through the overworld. So
Oh,
there's no separate encounter system. It's not JRPG turn based. It's ARPG for sure. And you
but
can
it's like idle game combat, basically.
So one of the most interesting things about the game is that the player inherently controls a support character, because your whole thing is that you never get like armor or weapons or anything. You get pellets that you shoot out of a slingshot. But the way that this matters is because you have a ton, like 60 or 70 different varieties of pellets, and a lot of them are buffs and heals and stuff like that. So a lot of the time you're trying to like, oh, so-and-so needs healing, I'm going to grab like a mid-heal pellet and shoot it at him, and okay, cool, he's healed up. I can debuff the enemy. So you're playing like a support role, which I think is super interesting. You can also do damage to the monsters, but like your monsters are going to do more damage than you by a lot to the other stuff in the world.
So it sounds like a mix between Pokemon, Toad Treasure Tracker, and A Boy and His Blob.
I suppose a little bit. Yeah. If you mash those things together, you kind of get close. Yeah.
Huh.
One other thing that I'll mention that's really cute about the game is that like when you get close to a buried treasure, you can trigger like a thing where it's like you see the treasure through your monster's eyes. But like depending on what kind of monster it is, it's going to look different. So for example, if you're just a slime, it's just a normal uninhibited view. Okay, you just see where the treasure is. There's an X and everything. If you're like one of those, they're like these mud hands that are just around. If you look through the mud hand view, you can barely see anything because there's mud all over the like view. And my favorite is there's a monster that's a pig with a giant like wizard cap, and if you look out the pig's point of view, it's nearly you can barely tell anything because there's like a big thing where the nose is, and then the brim of the hat sits so low that it's very clever. So I think that's cute as well.
Pig wizard, man. Who would have thought that's your highlight of the week?
Pig wizard.
I love it. My highlight of the week is also unexpected in that I installed my bidet yesterday, and you could eat off my butthole at this point. Like it's so clean back there.
All right, you have like a logistic question, which is, I think I may have only used one of these once when I was in Europe when I was a kid on vacation. Are they powered? Do you need to plug it in?
Some of them are. Mine is. You can get them that aren't. But mine requires power.
Okay. And like, do you don't use toilet paper at all then?
You do.
Okay.
You dry with toilet paper essentially.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Okay.
Right. So the way it works is there's like a cleaning jet that happens, and then you use toilet paper like you normally would. You check to make sure all of the whatever is gone is gone, and you dry yourself with it. And then the one that I have blows warm air to finish the drying process.
That's pleasant.
It is pleasant. It also has a heated seat. And part of it being plugged in, the way that it heats the seat is it heats water, and there's a water tank in the seat, and then it uses that water. So it's heated water instead of cold water.
Okay.
It's nice.
All right.
It's nice. It's very pleasant.
Well, hey, I'm glad that you enjoy it and your butthole's clean.
Dude, so it's sparkling. Sparkling. Speaking of sparkling buttholes, man, were there a lot of sparkling buttholes at the Game Awards.
What a transition. I love it.
But it's true. They were all dressed to the nines, and some of them were just real butts. We'll get to that. But we just wanted to spend today and kind of just recap the 2022 Video Game Awards, because a lot of stuff happened. Like, I don't know about you. This is the first one that I've ever watched all the way through. Yes. And part of that was I was streaming it, and part of it was I wanted to win a Steam Deck, and part of it was just like it was a good time to do it, a good watch. But there was a lot that happened. A
Yeah.
lot.
So yeah, no, that's a great call out, because this was also the first one that I watched, and I also I wasn't streaming it, but I did it for the Steam Deck reason. I mean, so those of you who may not have watched it, Steam was running a promotion, Valve was running a promotion where if you watched it through Steam, you were eligible to win a Steam Deck, and they were giving one away per minute, which is wild. So I
Yes.
don't know how many they gave away, a couple hundred, I would guess, probably, in the neighborhood of probably 250, I'm guessing.
I think it was like 2 hours, right?
I think it was longer than that, but I'm not.
Was it
Oh, because
3?
it lasted from 8 to 11. Because
Oh,
from,
okay, yeah.
yeah, they
You're
had
right,
that
3 hours.
Sky Children of Light concert that I attended afterwards, but we'll talk about that later.
That's right. Yeah. Oh god, I forgot about the weird
No,
concert.
this was the first one that I watched all the way through. The other ones previously, I had either just looked up articles with the winners, or I had seen some clips if there was anything notable that happened. I remember in previous years being really excited when I read that like No Man's Sky had won for like best continuing or best like ongoing game, and I was like, because I like the story of Sean Murray actually picking that up
Mhm.
from such a terrible launch and like making it what it is.
Right.
So yeah, I think the thing that I was thinking about while I was watching this is like, and I'm curious whether you feel the same, Dale, is that like games have definitely made it, right? Video games are very, very mainstream nowadays. Like
Oh
everybody,
yeah.
we talked about this in our,
$1 trillion company or
yeah,
industry rather.
yeah. I mean, we talked about, 4 billion people on the planet in our mobile episode have access to mobile devices that they can play video games on. I think that, and we'll go through this, but this year felt like this is now good. Like this is necessary. We should have these, but this felt like a real growing pains year, right? It felt like there were a lot of things that happened to me that felt like the things that you do to try and grow your viewer base, that you try and like you want to prove to people that this should be here. You know what I mean? Like it's necessary, but it felt insecure to me.
When you say insecure, do you mean they had security issues? Because we'll talk
No.
about that a little bit later. You mean like it doesn't yet know exactly what it is?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
mean,
what you
look,
mean by insecure?
they had kind of like a random smattering of presenters. For example, the musical guests they got were actually pretty big name folks, but like they were
Yeah.
both there for like really specific reasons, which I liked. I don't know. I just personally felt like it was like, hey, this is now here to stay. Like if you're big into video games and you want to know what the journalistic community thinks about who should have won these awards, you watch the Game Awards. You're not going to watch like them pin this onto the Tonys or the Emmys. Or, God, of course not Tonys. Sorry, I meant Oscars. Emmys, right? You're going to watch the Video Game Awards.
Could you imagine the Tonys doing video game stuff?
It would be awesome. Okay, as somebody who actually thinks the Tonys is one of the few award shows that's actually worth watching nowadays, I would absolutely love it. I would absolutely love it to see what they would put together for it, because like those folks are super creative as it is, and they also just like Tonys have so much fucking heart and spirit.
I would,
It's great.
to your credit, I would love to see Neil Patrick Harris do a musical number about all the video games.
It would be
that
wonderful.
Have been nominated.
It would be
it'd be
absolutely
great.
wonderful. Yeah, half of it written by Lin-Manuel Miranda or something. It would be great.
Yep. And inexplicably, they do a number from Annie in the middle.
Yeah, why not? Tomorrow. It's only a day away. One of the other things that I thought was interesting is because Mary and I were talking as we were going through, and she was like, okay, this is a hot take, but I don't think that they should that people should give award speeches. And I was like, hold on a minute. they have to. Like, she's like, no, it's just bullshit. It's like,
wait, hold on. I need you to say that again. I don't think I heard you correctly. What was her hot take?
She was hoping that they would just hand out the award and the person would like accept it, go up on stage, take a bow or something, and then leave. That there wouldn't be like an acceptance speech. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Of course, you have to have an acceptance speech because that's what they do everywhere else. But what she was really making the point of, which I actually think is kind of fascinating, is that more than any other awards, again, the previously mentioned film and TV and theater awards, this is an award show for like engineers and like people who are behind the scenes for the most part. And like, I get that there's going to be some like inherent kind of awkwardness to, when you get those other folks up on stage, they're performers, right? You get people who are naturally in front of TVs and or in front of cameras, in front of the public eye in some regard. And so you kind of don't know what's going to happen when you get folks up on stage that like they write code for a living, and I'm to be clear, I'm not talking shit about people. I just think it's interesting that like this is an award show largely for people who are in the background, but absolutely deserving of their awards. They work extremely hard to bring their products to all of us who love them. But you just don't always see these people. You don't know who they are. Like, yeah, sure, I know who Cory Barlog is, who works on God of War, but like maybe everybody doesn't,
Well, yes, but at the same point, this is an industry award show. That'd be like saying, like, oh, the automotive manufacturers awards, they shouldn't have speeches. Like, you should definitely have speeches.
Oh, like, yeah. Like her hot take aside, because we went into full dissection of it, and we don't have to relitigate.
Okay, fair enough.
The point I was just making is just that, like, it's just interesting because to you, the point you just made, it's an industry award, but it's treated like an award show. I guess those are industry awards too. They're just so public facing.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where like the bigger awards, they get an acceptance speech, but there were a bunch of awards that they announced where there was no speech, there was no trophy handed out. It was just, hey, they got the award. Like the best simulation game, there were nobody came up and accepted anything. They just said what it was,
Yeah.
So
yeah. Did you have any thoughts on like the show on the whole? Like before we go into any of the minutia?
I thought it was good. I think to your point, you called it insecure. I would just say it still feels very young.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It feels, despite the fact that the first one came out in 2014, like they need better writers. They absolutely need better writers. Like it has all of the glitz and pizzazz of a major award show, but it still feels it does not feel as polished when it comes to like who is presenting. It does not feel as polished when it comes to like the time frames that things are. We'll talk about Chris Judge later, but like they just let him talk. Like there's a bunch of stuff. And the other thing is I know that we were there to watch like premieres of video game stuff, and so this sounds a little insane. There were way too many commercials. There were way too many commercials.
Yeah, that's
for an award show where it was like DoorDash your food from Wendy's while you sit on a secret lab chair. Like what are you doing here?
I will say that this is the only time where I've ever seen the commercials be like laser focused, targeted toward the community. Cause it's like, I couldn't imagine sitting down and watching like another, like basically anything and watching ads for like Discord or ads for like Samsung solid state hard drives and stuff like that. It's like, wow, these are so specific.
I guess I want to clarify. I was fine with the pre-recorded commercials, right? Like the commercials that they played throughout, that I'm fine with. I don't want the announcer talking about like sponsored stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
So like when Jeff Keighley comes out and he's like, all right, so we just heard from so-and-so and be sure to check them out, blah, blah, blah. Like that kind of stuff.
Well, no, like we just saw an ad for a Samsung SSD. And if you use this promo code, you'll get 20% off or whatever. Like if you look at any of the other award shows that are out there, they have commercials. They do not acknowledge the commercial in the show.
Yeah.
Right. They don't tie it like it felt like the commercials were too big of a part of the show, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. Right? And I agree with you. I just articulated what I was thinking poorly, but you and I are on the same page.
Yeah. But speaking of presenters, there were some pretty crazy presenters here. Do you want to go into maybe what happened with Mr. Pacino?
Yeah, I mean, so Al Pacino was like really the start of kind of feeling like it was young or it was insecure, because like it felt like the only reason he was there for star power. The guy openly admits within the first couple seconds of saying that like he doesn't play video games, which is fine. Like, I get it, right? Not everybody plays video games, and it doesn't surprise me that like that happened. But it just, at the point where the person accepting the award is part of the award speech is like, you guys, I just met Al Pacino, and that's amazing. Like, it's cool that he came out for it, but like he didn't know that the teleprompter was going to be that far away, so he could barely read it. And I don't know. I felt bad for him. I'm glad that he was there, and it was cool that they could organize him being there, but like it just felt like one of those folks that you throw in there because like people know Al Pacino, lends credibility, but like he doesn't feel like he belongs in any way, and everybody feels the same way.
Yeah, it's funny because I think if you look at like Al Pacino as a presenter, and then you look at Roberta, God, I just blanked on her name, from Sierra.
Yeah.
The two founders.
Was it Miller?
No. God, I just blanked. I'm sorry. I feel bad. I'm doing a live Google.
But while you look it up, yeah, I mean, this is the kind of award show where, as presenters and as folks that come on stage, you can have folks like Hideo Kojima that can come up on stage, or like Shigeru Miyamoto, or like Reggie Fils-Aimé,
Yoshi P.
Exactly. You can have these folks come on stage that are titans of industry and have been so influential. And like, I think people have more reverence for that. They don't, kind of like Al Pacino being there just makes everybody feel awkward.
Yeah, exactly. It is, by the way, Ken and Roberta Williams. So you were real close. But yeah, like having that, like when I saw them come out, I was like, this is fucking great. Right? Because those are people who made some of my favorite games as a kid. This ruled. And it's like Pacino made some good movies, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has not made a single video game I cared about. It was also really weird having Michael Madsen come out.
Yes. Especially since he looked pretty rough, to be clear. Like looks like he's had some bad years. And I think and I don't know, I honestly have no idea what's happened with his life or anything like that, but he seemed to be like holding himself kind of weirdly. And I don't know whether that
was in the beginning, and I think it was just a nerves thing.
Okay.
He looked like he knew he was out of place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was like, it was like Al Pacino, but he was aware of it, I guess.
Exactly. And then he started talking like the character, and he like opened up. So it was like, oh, now I get to be the character that I'm playing in this video game. I don't have to act like me who's nervous. I can act like the character. And then he was fine for the remainder of it. But it was just a real weird vibe at the beginning. You know?
Agreed. Since we were talking about presenters, there's at least one more that I wanted to highlight. Actually, a couple, but one was Rahul Kohli. Now, I know we were talking before the show, and you don't know who Rahul Kohli is.
I have no idea.
Some of the folks that are listening probably don't either. Now, Rahul Kohli is an actor. He's most notably starred in some of the Netflix Mike Flanagan horror series. So we're talking at Haunting at Bly Manor, Midnight Mass. He was in the Midnight Club most recently with a bit of a cameo.
A lot of nighttime shows. Yeah,
night themed shows by Mike Flanagan. And he, in my opinion, is the perfect example of somebody who makes a great presenter, because Rahul, first of all, he got up there. He was the first presenter that I saw that was like, he was super well spoken. He didn't miss a beat. He didn't have any teleprompter weirdness. He didn't seem to have any nerves at all. But like, he's one of those guys that's like Henry Cavill, that just is through and through a video games guy. Like this guy, I follow him on Twitter. He's posting about video games all the time. He's dating Alana Pierce, who used to be a notable video game journalist, who's now working for Sony. I think she's affiliated with like the Santa Monica studios that produced God of War Ragnarok. But like, in the same way that Henry Cavill would have been an awesome get for this, because like he's a good A or B list celebrity, huge nerd, loves video games. The Rahul Kohli and Henry Cavill are like things where we'd love to see in the future, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think back to the Keanu "You're Breathtaking" moment,
Yeah.
and it's like you either need somebody who's like, I know I'm out of place and that's fine, or you need somebody who's like, yeah, I can speak this language. You
Yeah.
can't have somebody who's like so out of touch that they're like nervous about it, when they get
Right.
on stage, because you can read that immediately.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Keegan Michael Key.
Oh, dude. Yes.
It's rough when one of the funniest people on the planet cannot get a laugh.
I honest to God, like he came out and I was like, finally, we're gonna, he's gonna do the same thing as Rahul Kohli. He's just gonna come out. He's not gonna make any gaffes. And like, I felt like the joke that he was telling was it started off funny. Like there's been a lot of people talking about like the toad, like is the cap the head or the hat thing, and then
Yep.
it just didn't go anywhere. It felt completely flat.
It was so bad. And it was
rough,
the only thing he said before. Like, if he had talked for like 2 or 3 minutes about the process of recording Toad and getting into character and like all of that, like it would have been fine. But instead, he talked for 20 seconds, said a bad joke, and then announced, like, and here's a new trailer.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it was just real rough. And the trailer wasn't even like that great either.
Yeah, well, what they wanted to do, I think, is just show a snippet of the movie, and so, like, instead of like a formal trailer. But yeah, the point stands that like it was very rough to see him not get. I mean, it was completely silent in the audience.
And that dude is so funny, and he deserves so much more. And this is what I'm talking about when I say they need new writers. Like, he didn't write that. He read that off a teleprompter and was disappointed that he had to do so. You could just tell.
Yeah. So I did want to bring up maybe one or two more people. So the one that I wanted to bring up is next is actually more for where I think the awards might go. And we'll kind of come back to this a little bit later on. But they had a couple of content creators from 100 Thieves, Valkyrie and Fusely, that come out and present an award. And I'll be honest, I forgot the exact award they were presenting from.
Isn't it fusilli? Isn't that a type of pasta?
Maybe. I mean, that would track. But I think that you're going to see more famous streamers and stuff because they are both very famous. I know that Valkyrie specifically is one of the co-owners of 100 Thieves with Courage, Jack, and then Nade Shot. So those are very big people in the content creation sphere. So I think that you're going to start seeing them because they are some of the more, some of the bigger personalities and whatnot that are out there. So it was cool to see, them getting acknowledged and whatnot, and being able to give out an award. So I just thought that was interesting and it was worth bringing up to highlight them as presenters. I like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a cool way to highlight something that is unique to gaming, from like a content creation side of things. Like, you would never have a YouTuber who reviews movies presenting at the Oscars. It's just not going to happen. But it makes a lot more sense in the gaming space because so much of what gaming is requires an online presence and all of that. I think it's just, I agree. I think it's a very cool direction for them to go. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. One thing I wanted to highlight was the cast of The Last of Us, both the voice actors and the actors from the show coming out and trying to present an award while synced up. It was just fun. It was just a cool thing to do,
It was fun. And like Pedro Pascal is another guy who, like, first of all, everybody loves Pedro Pascal. And like he does such a good job of trying to play down his like star power when he's very clearly like, especially since he's been in like The Mandalorian and Game of Thrones and some huge he's not a small star anymore. People know who Pedro Pascal is, but he did such a good job of like, I'm just here to present an award like everybody else. It was great.
Yes. Another fun one was Animal. But I'll be honest with you, like I enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome.
I
I
did too.
did not understand what the fuck he was there for.
He's
like, why is
there's
Animal here?
There's a game. The Muppets have some sort of game coming out next year. Let me Google it real quick.
Okay, but it was awesome to like have Animal talk about like, yeah, I'll play the drums, like all that stuff. It was just fun. It was good to see Animal, but it did seem really weird. I did not understand who it was for.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding this, but I did think that like it was my favorite probably presentation because it just was very like, go present award. You know, I obviously do a terrible animal impression, but like,
no man, dead on.
It was I loved it. I thought it was a lot more fun.
You sounded like a stereotypical Italian chef screaming at me from a Sbarro's. Come eat pizza.
Because stereotypical Italian chefs all work at Sbarro's.
No, I'm saying like
I'm fucking with
you. That's the vibe you gave off.
I love it.
I don't think I have a very good animal impression either, though. So I don't know what I'm doing shitting on you. So one cool thing about this was they had a bunch of premieres and a bunch of announcements and a bunch of things that we hadn't seen before and or things that we had maybe seen snippets of that they expanded on, so on and so forth. So I was pretty jazzed about that. Were there any that you were like super stoked on?
Yeah, so the first one is not like was more of just a surprise, which is just them dropping Vampire Survivors on mobile during the awards was great. Like that was awesome. Yeah. Vampire Survivors and Ponkel, the dev who is the game basically, have done a really good job just being like fan favorites in like every category. And they just continue that. They did the like, will you guys not have phones? The Wyatt Chang joke from Diablo, which I thought was kind of funny, if a little bit played out. But like, I love that they dropped that. They dropped a demo for Forspoken, which I was excited for. So I haven't had a chance to dig into that yet, but hopefully I'll get a chance in the next couple days to play that.
Yeah, I downloaded it, but I haven't had a chance to play it.
Yeah, right on. I think that like in terms of the Diablo 4 cinematic trailer that they did was awesome. It was very, very cool. That team that does the animations for Blizzard has always been really, really talented. And like,
dead on.
Say what you will about the stuff that's going on with them, but like that team does good fucking work. And that trailer looked awesome. And especially like presumably that was Tyrael. It sounded like Tyrael that they're going to bring back for this game. I know that he's in like all the Diablo properties, but like they did a really good job of highlighting how powerful the angels are when like they're always kind of like, oh, we've got our ass kicked all over the place all the time. But like, the whole thing where he, as he approaches the ground kind of breaks, and he hasn't even touched it yet, and the ground's like shattering under his feet because he's so powerful. I thought it looked cool as fuck. So I'm already hype as shit for that game, and that definitely helped.
It really makes me hope that Blizzard fires Bobby Kotick and the whole Goon Squad and all of that very soon, so I can play it. Yeah, I would love to be able to give Blizzard money again. I would love to be able to play Blizzard properties again. I just can't do it. Yeah, along those same lines, like we knew that they were going to announce stuff about Tekken 8. We knew they were going to announce stuff about Street Fighter 6. Mm-hmm. But it was just cool to see the like gameplay videos that they released and, you know, have those on a larger scale where, you know, people who otherwise might not have known about it get to see it. It's pretty exciting stuff, especially because they're both such titans in the industry. Seeing them come out like very close to one another is pretty cool. And then we got a bunch of stuff that was like brand new. Yep. Like there were rumors about a new Armored Core game, but we got our first trailer for that. We got a first trailer at Bayonetta Origins, which I was like, oh, they're making another Bayonetta game so close to 3. And then it was like, oh, they're not making another Bayonetta game. What is this? Like, that looks pretty cool. I don't know about you. The thing I am most hyped about, Hades 2.
Yeah, Hades 2. And it's funny because when I saw the Supergiant logo come up on the screen, I actually had mentioned to Mare, who was like barely paying attention, but I was just basically talking to myself. I was just like, oh, whatever this is going to be a super big deal. And I was really curious, like when we got like a mage and she like wielded a staff, and I'm like, okay, what is? And then when they showed the visuals, I was like, oh my god, no fucking way they're doing Hades 2. This is so exciting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think
It's
the
crazy.
internet kind of went wild on that one. That's a great announcement.
I thought it was going to be like a sequel to Bastion, right?
Okay.
Because it's been a minute, and it's like, okay, yeah, you could go back to that world. Nope, Hades 2. They're just doing it. It's crazy.
Now that they've set the bar pretty high for themselves, just based on like everything that was Hades 1 and how fucking outstanding it was. So like, I think they'll deliver, but like, they've set the bar high for themselves. I'll just say that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure with the benefit of hindsight that I can say that Hades is the best roguelike of all time so far.
Yep.
So yeah, bar's pretty like number one. Yeah, that's a high bar.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. Speaking of high bars, if you love chugging Monster Energy drinks, Death Stranding 2 got announced, and I just want to say Kojima's a gem. He must be protected.
Yes. I will say that like he is famous for bringing some of the strangest IPs, but that have become like the most beloved. He's like the king of the cult following in games, and like I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. I have not played Death Stranding. I'm not going to lie to you. It did not sound interesting to me. That said, this trailer was like absolutely insane, and it's on Game Pass, so I might just do it. I might just bite the bullet and download Death Stranding and see what it's all about. And who knows, maybe I'll love being a delivery guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see whether they stick to the same gameplay mechanics, because it certainly was like it was one of those super high concept things where it's just like it's the message and the gameplay is ostensibly just being a UPS delivery driver, but like, or walker rather, but like, yeah. I'm very curious to see what comes of that.
Yeah. Did you check out the trailer for Judas?
I did, and at first I didn't really know what I was looking at, because didn't that team launch a handful of years ago, the like We Happy Few or something, and I'm not sure whether it was the same team or a different one.
I'm pretty sure it's a different team. This is the team that they kept advertising that it's the team behind BioShock, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that they also did We Happy Few.
Yeah, I'd have to look up who did that, but I was just getting those kind of vibes from it. I mean, look, let's be honest.
Yeah,
the BioShock games are incredible. Like, I will play this. There's no doubt in my mind. It's one of the things where I watched the trailer and was like, sure. Like, I don't really even need to watch this. Like, okay, I'll play it. No problem. You don't have to tell me on
it. I was like, what's going on here? And then I saw the protagonist open a hole in their hand and throw like a spell into it, and now they had fire, and I was like, oh yeah, all right, I'll be playing this. Thanks.
I'm in. Yeah.
So pretty great. Speaking of games that have come before, Party Animals, they announced.
Okay, that game. So the game that it came before, was that Gang Beasts? Was that the one?
So there's Gang Beasts, there's Rubber Bandits, there's another one that I can't remember the name of. There's a whole bunch of different games that are basically this exact same game.
Okay.
But everyone was super hyped on this, mostly because they advertised like the fact that you're an animal, the fact that you could be a cute animal, and the fact that you can like you could be a cat with an orange peel for a hat, right?
Yeah.
And it's like people were losing their mind over cat with orange peel as hat. And it's crazy to me that you can advertise DLC costumes and that can be enough to like get people hyped on a game.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's probably good that I go back and check out one of these games. I know we did a video shout out to Gannon and Mel, I think, that did the video on Rubber Bandits. The whole like goofy ragdoll fighter genre is it's so fun. It makes such a great first impression because it looks beyond hilarious. And this game hit me like that too. I saw that and I was like, I want to play this game. It looks so stupid.
I mean, when I saw, I think it was a panda drop kick a pig into a furnace.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I kind of all right. I want to be that panda.
I want to try this. Yeah.
I want to be it. But it is wild to me that you could just make a game slightly cuter and people are like, yeah, quick into my veins or whatever.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great.
There's at least two more that I wanted to talk about. So the biggest one being Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So I hadn't been following any of the like news or leaks or any. I don't even know what there was out there for Jedi Survivor. Aside from that, it was being handled by Respawn, and that was a big deal. Anyways, I thought that looks cool as fuck. That game looks very, very cool, and definitely seems like it walks kind of in the footsteps of Fallen Order. A little bit more than anything else, because it does have that kind of Souls-like look to it.
Isn't it just a direct sequel to Fallen Order?
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't followed it at all, so I don't know. That wouldn't surprise me. It looks good. It has my attention, and I never played Fallen Order, and I should do that. Yeah, that was a game that I hadn't been following at all. So I was glad to see some extra info on that.
Yeah. Just confirmed. It is, in fact, a direct sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. So.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. And then one of the other things that I just wanted to note here when we're still talking about trailers or premieres. So I don't know if anybody's played Lords of the Fallen. So this, like, right as Dark Souls started to get really popular, there was a side studio that I think was affiliated with Microsoft that did this Lords of the Fallen, which was a not as good version of Dark Souls. And so it looks like they're rebooting the IP, but the things that I saw in there were they want to be Elden Ring. They want to take this property and they want to open it up like Elden Ring did, do an open world experience. And so I'm genuinely curious whether they can just make the fucking game a little bit better. The problem with Lords of the Fallen, the original, is that it felt like in Dark Souls, when you do a boss fight and you die, you can always, for the most part, draw a line back to a thing that you did wrong or you weren't paying attention to, and you learn and you get better and you do it, right? But it takes time, it takes patience. There was shit that would happen in Lords of the Fallen where, like, it was just random. Like, there's no way that you could, like, the hitboxes were all over the place. Like, it didn't feel good. You have to make a game tight if you're going to do that, and it didn't feel good. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on this game to deliver, or it's going to be an IP that just disappears forever.
Yeah, that's fair. The beginning of your criticism of Lords of the Fallen was pretty hilarious, though. It's like, hey, can you guys just make the game better?
Yeah, get good.
Like, it's
Lords
bad
of the Fallen
right now, and can you make it good instead? Yeah. But yeah, the hitbox thing, like, is so essential. I've only ever played through Demon Souls. I played through the remake last year, earlier this year. I don't remember. And yes, the hitboxes have to be so precise because the game is so brutal that if the hitboxes were bad, it would just be cheating. And so I'm 100% with you there. I'm 100% with you. So Lords of the Fallen, we need better performance out of you.
Get good, scrubs.
Yeah. Speaking of performances, there were several musical performances during the award ceremony, and they were kind of big names, right? You had Halsey doing. Do you remember what song she did or what game she did a song from?
Yeah. So it was for Diablo 4. And
it was Lilith. That's right.
Yeah. And that apparently was her own. She wrote that song for, like, in cooperation with the folks over at Blizzard. So that's going to be, I think, a part of the game when that releases. And cool. That was fine. I feel like that was exactly what you'd expect. Halsey did Halsey, and cool. Like, I don't know much about her, but I know, like, the type of music she does, and she did that, and okay, cool.
Yeah. Yep. And then Hosier, I think it's actually pronounced Hoser. Hoser.
Yes.
Hosier.
Yeah, so Hoser, a bunch of hosers out there. Hosier, I thought that song was very cool. I have not hit the point in God of War Ragnarok where I see that song. Presumably it is in the game. But I thought that song was very cool. I liked it a lot. And I thought that that's a good song for him because it did showcase like kind of the vocal stuff, and having the orchestra backup I think was really good. So yeah, I'm excited to get to the point in the game where I experience that song, because it was a pretty song.
I thought the song was beautiful. I thought the performance was beautiful.
Yes.
Right. And then there was one other, you talked about the orchestra. There's one other orchestral game music medley that they did right before they did the game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to call out the flute guy.
Dude went so hard.
From the orchestra. I had his name and I lost it, but he was just amazing. First off, he was like doing a piccolo, and then he was on a bass flute, and then he was on a clarinet. He was like all over the place. He was playing like bunches of different instruments. Somebody talked about how he must have had like Felix's magic bag and just pulling new instruments out of it, because it was like he's like on the piccolo, the camera cuts away for 1/3 of 1 second, and the camera goes back to him and he's on the bass flute. And it's like, how is this guy's got to be made of magic? Like, there's no question in my mind. His name, by the way, it was Pedro Eustache. His name is, by the way, Pedro Eustache. He did not die between then and right now.
Okay, good.
And he was just awesome. Like the whole time he was performing, he was like dancing and smiling. When the performance ended, he put down whatever flute or clarinet or whatever he was rocking, and he did a double fist pump. Like, it was sweet.
Amazing.
And then when Jeff was like, and the orchestra, and everybody like stood up, everyone was like politely standing there with their arms crossed, and he was like pointing at people and like the dude rules. I hope I love anything as much as that guy loves playing music. Because he was my highlight of the show.
Yeah,
I'm not
it was
kidding.
Awesome. No, it was awesome. No,
I love him so much. I followed him on Twitter, dude.
I bet he got a lot of new followers that night, because I saw a lot of like the two big stories coming out of it. Well, sorry, there were three, and we'll talk about two of them. But the third one was this guy. People loved him.
Yeah. And apparently he's like a renowned musician. Like, he's played with Yanni and played for Hans Zimmer stuff. And so like he obviously knows his shit. But like, I'm looking at an article that just has like people who made fan art of him already.
Yeah, like when the internet decides they have like a favorite, they just go crazy. And so this guy's an internet favorite.
I hope we don't run into like a Milkshake Cat situation here. You know, have you heard of Milkshake Cat?
I don't think I have.
It's this comedian was talking about how we find these people and we're like, we love them. And then we find out like, oh, they're Nazi sympathizers, or like,
this happens.
Ken Bone thing.
Yeah, this happens unfortunately all the time nowadays. Yeah. Yeah.
So Milkshake Cat.
Well,
Milkshake Cat has distanced themselves from their time at InfoWars or whatever.
Oh God, like, I'll have to look it up. But I definitely get the gist of it. And yes, I hope that we can actually have just cool fucking Flute Guy.
I just love Flute Guy so fucking much. I love him so much. I want to invite him to family Christmas. Like, God, he's awesome. Speaking of awesome, what about Jeff Keeling?
Yeah, I just wanted to drop a small note in here. Like, he's obviously, this is like what he does. The awards are the Jeff Keighley show, and like he does a good job of it. Like he handled the Chris Judge stuff that we'll talk about in a minute really well, and actually did some funny callbacks to that later and stuff like that. But the guy's he's in his element when he's doing this, and like, it's cool. He can keep hosting this every year. That's fine. I also love that, because this is kind of his baby, that like he just is so enthusiastic about it, you know, and he comes to the speeches and everything just full on. He is genuinely excited about it. And so I just think he's a good host.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, we talked about how this feels young. He does not seem young in his role. He seems like he is comfortable doing it. I do think in order for the Video Game Awards to level up, you're probably going to need a co-host, right? so that way you can have two different people who are vibing off of one another and like that sort of thing. But I think he should probably be in one of those host seats forever.
Oh, dude,
right?
Can we get Brian David Gilbert to
Right, exactly.
co-host?
Like something like a BDG or like a Morgan Webb would be
Sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
Or like there are a bunch of different personalities who would do excellent in the co-host spot along with Jeff, right? Who
Yeah.
would bring a different personality in and all of that. Because Jeff, while he was great and he was professional, there wasn't a lot of personality that came out.
Yeah, that's
right?
a good call. It was like some of the animal notwithstanding, it was pretty serious, for the most part.
Exactly.
The tone wasn't very lighthearted.
Exactly. And so you bring in somebody else who can give you a little bit of that levity. And I feel like, boom, suddenly it's like, all right, this will be the great mix,
Yeah.
And it could be a Jack Black, right?
Sure.
It could be somebody like any of the people from Critical Role, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like there's a million different people out there. Like you talked about Henry Cavill as a presenter, like Henry Cavill as a co-host would be great.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got a bunch of options out there, Jeff. Find one. I believe in you. You talked about Chris Judge, though. I clocked his speech at 3 months long. How long did you have it at?
I mean, I was halfway through season 3, I think, when I walked out of the room to get something to drink. So
okay, season 3 of his speech.
Yeah. No, I honestly like it. So it was funny because this was kind of proof that like they didn't really think they were going to have like the music to shut people down and like get people off the stage. Like they didn't, I think that through, because I think they were just thinking that like people are just going to like be up there. They're going to accept the award. They're going to thank like 10 people and then they're going to get off the stage. And he did not do that at all. He talked about everything. He talked about his origins in the industry. He talked about like, he barely remembered to call out Sonny, who was always also up for an award for Atreus, who I was rooting for. So that's the thing about that award. And I was going to talk about it in a minute here, but I'll talk about it here. I was rooting for Sonny. I was rooting for Ashley Birch. Chris, and after the fact, he has the audacity to get on Twitter and be like, oh, I was cut off. Dude, you spoke for 20 minutes. Like, you're at the point where Jeff Keighley is accusing you of giving away extra Steam decks because you just won't stop talking. It was an adventure. It was a total adventure. Yeah, it was wild.
It was insane. At the same point, for those of you who didn't watch and don't know who Chris Judge is, he's the guy who voices Kratos, and he won for voicing Kratos. And his regular speaking voice is unbearably pleasant. It is too nice. And so he talked for like 15, 20 minutes. But at the same time, the whole time I was like, yeah, I could just listen to this guy talk for like ever.
Yeah.
Like it'd be fine. And it's tough when he's like, he got an award for how good he talks. And like, he's going to want to talk. He's good talking, man. So I get it. But at the same time, like, yeah, they should have played him off like 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
Like it was way too long. The other acceptance speech that I want to talk about is the Elden Ring acceptance speech.
Our boy Bill Clinton.
Which was insane. So Elden Ring won Game of the Year. And as the Elden Ring team is coming up, they're all Japanese, so they're coming up with their translator. They all come up, and then there is a 15-year-old child who walks up on stage with them. And if you watch back, you see that he just like gets out of his seat and comes down a different aisle, but meets up with them as they're going up the stairs to get on stage. And he just walks up with them. And then the Elden Rings team gives their speech about like, hey, it was great to make this. It was fun. We're going to make new awesome games. We love the community. We love everybody who played. Like, awesome. And then as the music starts to turn on, that the speech is over and the translator is done speaking, the kid comes out from behind and he goes, all right, it's my turn. I just want to nominate this award to my Reformed Orthodox Jewish rabbi, Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And then leaves.
And then immediately the camera zooms really far out. And then you see people in suits come out to like escort him off the stage, basically.
Yeah.
And it turns out like he's just a 15-year-old kid. You can look him up if you want to. His name's Martin Evan, I think. But he's like a previous like Hong Kong supporter and like a bunch of stuff. There was rumors swirling about how this might have been an anti-Semitic dog whistle. There were rumors about like all sorts of different stuff. Turns out he's just an idiot.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I have this idea of how I can get on stage at the Game Awards. I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know what I should say. And he just came up with this idiot idea along the way.
Well, he did. Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say he did get his 15 minutes of fame, though, because he was getting interviews with like all of the game publications. I know I saw a tweet from Jason Schreier, who's like one of the best journalists in gaming. And he had reached out to him, and that Jason was like, yeah, this is just some fucking kid who's playing a prank.
Right. Now, here's the thing. It might have been a harmless prank. I'm not involved in the anti-Semitic world, so it also might have been an anti-Semitic dog whistle that he's just like lying to us about, and we don't know, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing that you and I don't know. I think that's a good thing. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't know where it's at. I do hate the fact that there's a potential that it was anti-Semitic, because it does mean that I can't share all the amazing memes that are going on with like Bill Clinton's face on the front of an Elden Ring cover and like that sort of thing. Like that's just objectively funny, unless it is accidentally tied into anti-Semitism, in which case it's like, man, fuck this.
Yeah.
You know? So
we have to give the internet like a solid week to figure it out, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So those are two of the acceptance speeches, but we haven't really talked outside of the fact that Chris Judge got outstanding performance and Elden Ring got Game of the Year. We haven't talked about any of the other awards. So what are some that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I got a handful of call outs and I'll try to make it quick. So first of all, for best score in music, God of War Ragnarok won. I was secretly rooting for Metal Hellsinger because the soundtrack absolutely fucking rips in that game. And it's on Xbox Game Pass. So if anybody wants to try basically 2016's Doom, but with rhythm elements, it's a lot of fun. I loved the fact that Splatoon 3 took home best multiplayer game. I think that's nice. A really awesome thing for the industry, that like not your typical like hyper violent, Call of Duty military simulations, or like League of Legends or like Valorant or like any of these games. Splatoon 3 is about painting shit, right? Like about being a squid and painting stuff. And the fact that won best multiplayer, by the way, it's absolutely deserved. That game is wonderful. I was just going to say that I root for Ashley Birch no matter what she's up for. She was up against Chris Judge and Sunny Solchik, but too bad, so sad is what it is. She was Aloy for Horizon Forbidden West. And
she's also Tiny Tina in the Tiny Tina
also
games.
Tiny Tina, that's correct, and was the original Tiny Tina. I did want two more things here. One is that shout out to Ganon, because I think that the Xenoblade 3 fans that were coming into this were like, we're going to get totally snubbed. It's no big deal. Like, we're used to this. Xenoblade's not going to win anything. But it did have 3 whole nominations, which is awesome, including a nomination for Game of the Year and for nominated for Best RPG. So that's not for nothing. In addition to score and music. And then the other thing is just how fucking stacked the best debut indie category was.
Seriously.
The field was neon white. Norco, which is the only one of the batch that I don't really know much about, but it's on Game Pass now, so I might check it out. Stray, Tunic, and Vampire Survivors. That is a wild fucking field for best debut indie, and really highlights that, like, in a lot of ways, the indie community still drives the industry forward and still makes just some of the best games out there.
Yeah. Stray won. I personally was hoping for Tunic. It was my Game of the Year.
I was hoping that Vampire Survivors would of course pull off the upset because it's like the internet's darling. Like everybody fucking loves Vampire Survivors. You had what was it, Phil Spencer has played it for like 200 hours or something. Like it's wild the stuff that's coming out about that game. So that Stray won, and I when I first saw the nominees, I was like, Stray's going to win this, and that's fine. But like Tunic would have been my next pick, but I was secretly rooting for Vampire Survivors.
Yeah. I just want to call out some weird nominations. Best Narrative, God of War Ragnarok, of course, won. But inexplicably, Elden Ring was nominated for Best Narrative?
Yeah, I was shocked that it was included, but I also was shocked that like the game was incredible, but like it doesn't do storytelling very much. Like
it doesn't have
really
a narrative.
Well, it does, but you have to understand how they do it, and like I don't. Clay and I had like a multi-hour discussion one time about the plot in Dark Souls games, and I left saying like, well, that's nice and I believe you, but I still don't know what's going on in these games.
There is a difference between having a plot and having a narrative, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, that lacks
have
a narrative.
A plot. Yeah. It does not have a narrative. There's nobody is like talking you through it, right?
Yeah.
Your character has no dialogue. There's not a narrative.
You do things, right? You shape the world by your actions, and then that's exactly what happens.
It tells stories. I'm not saying it doesn't have a plot. I'm not saying it's not telling stories.
But
I'm saying there's no narrative.
Way.
Yes, exactly. Best fighting game, which went to Multiverses, was cool. However, Sifu was nominated, and that's not a fighting game.
Very surprised to see that in there. Yep.
So what the fuck is going on there? Best art direction went to Elden Ring, but I thought it was really cool to see Scorn get nominated.
Yes.
Personally, I'm not into penis horror, but I appreciate the fact that they acknowledged that some people are. So that was very cool. And then I don't know if you've looked at Scorn. It's all H.R. Giger inspired stuff. It's like very, very penis horror. Your weapon in the early game is like a small gun that shoots out a penis about 3 feet in front of you. Okay. And that's your weapon. It's like, it's all penis horror. And then finally, I want to call out the best mobile game category, which went to Marvel Snap. I'm playing Marvel Snap. I think it's great. I don't know that it's the best mobile game of the year, but I definitely know that Diablo Immortal should not have even been nominated.
Yeah.
The fact that it was nominated is hilarious and shows just how out of touch some like, I'm sorry, not just how out of touch, but like how disparate the industry is from the community sometimes.
Yeah.
And the fact that this was nominated is ludicrous.
Yeah, I agree. I think it felt like they just had to include it since it was one of the biggest names on the list, right? But like I agree with you.
Fuck Diablo Immortal.
I agree. And you know, I started out really liking Diablo Immortal, and I talked about this on a previous pod, and I haven't played it since July or something. I haven't played it in a very long time.
Yeah. And then last thing I wanted to call out, because we said we'd talk about it all episode, content creator of the year going to Ludwig was really interesting. A, I was snubbed, but B, no. I do think it's cool that this is the direction that we're going, where we're acknowledging things like esports teams, we're acknowledging coaches, we're acknowledging content creators, like that sort of thing. It's such an intrinsic part of the gaming community, and being able to see that recognized on the large stage is really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Ludwig certainly made a huge name for himself over the last couple of years, and certainly has a following. So that made sense.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. But guys, write me in for next year is what I'm trying to say.
I'm in. You got at least one write-in vote.
Yep. I've got exactly one, because I don't know if you can write in stuff. So you're going to send Jeff Keighley a postcard with just my name on it.
No, don't you? Dude, Jeff Keighley listens to this. So Jeff.
Jeff, that's right.
Yeah. I'll text you.
Yeah, I'm sure he's listening. Thanks, Jeff. Cool. You got anything else that you want to talk about from the Game Awards sides of things?
Nah, I thought it was a solid award show. I will watch it next year.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. We don't have a real silly question today, but I do want to ask, if you had to nominate a game for worst game of the year, what would it be?
Oh God. Ugh. I don't know if I'm going to be good at this on the spot.
I know I should have written it down, but I sure
Jesus.
didn't.
If you have something good, I'll keep thinking while you give one.
I am going to say that my nomination for worst game of the year is, and this is maybe cheating because it technically came out last year, but WWE 2K22.
Oh, that game is notoriously busted.
I've seen videos where like the referee is holding the player, right? Just like in a loving embrace. I've also seen videos where like the two players run into each other and then start hovering in the middle of the ring and limbs start shooting everywhere. I've seen parts where like a player will get tangled into the ring ropes and just like become jelly. It's like amazing. It's so broken. I cannot believe they released it. It's insane to me.
That's amazing. Honestly, I don't have a great one. Probably the one that I was most frustrated with was Back for Blood, because I tried to play it a number of times with my friend group when it came out, and it just was they had such terrible balance issues that the game was not fun at all. And no matter like what we did with loadouts or synergy or whatever, we had nothing but a bad time playing it. So that's kind of my only one. And that's another one that came out last year. So we're both good at this.
Yeah,
that's what I got. Hey, we'll drop some in the Discord maybe.
I hear both Pokemon Scarlet, Violet, and Marvel Midnight Suns are broken. So maybe those two.
Yeah. Well, maybe luckily I haven't played the Pokemon one, but yes, I've heard that's a mess.
I did see a Diglett come out of somebody's donglet, so that was pretty funny.
It was
that
really
video's
good.
all over the place. You can look it up. I'm not going to link to it. All right. I think I've got nothing else. You got anything else?
No, I'm good.
Well, if you had to nominate somebody for the Fuck You Award, who would it be?
I think Dan.
He takes it every year. Yeah, he takes it every year. Yeah. All right. My name is Dale, but you can find me as a 20-sided ninja on Twitch and on Twitter and in the Discord. What about you, Brodie?
You can find me over in the Discord as Arborescence, on Twitter as Arborescence1.
Nice. If you want to see any of our other stuff, it's all available on superokpodcast.com. We got a YouTube channel. We got old episodes that you can share with friends and family. We got a bunch of cool stuff. Next week, speaking of cool stuff, next week we are doing our 2022 recap, which is pretty great. I've heard a rumor that all of us are going to be on that episode. So if you're like, oh man, I missed a person, they're going to be there. So make sure to check it out. I feel like that's probably a good one. If you're like, hey, I've got this fun video game podcast that I want to get my friends into, that's probably going to be a pretty good one where people can get a sense of like personalities and the vibe of the show and all of that. So a lot of people have asked me like, hey, if I want to start listening to your podcast, when's the best time to do it? And for once, the answer is next week.
Yes, absolutely.
So pretty awesome. And then, and also special shout out to our Patreons. I love you dearly. We couldn't do this without you. You guys are all amazing.
One more quick scheduling note, which is that last year we started doing this, and we think we're going to do it every year, which is the week between Christmas and New Year's. There will not be a pod coming out so that we can spend time with our family for the holidays and whatnot. But we will pick it up again starting the week after that with our usual Tuesday release schedule. But that week will be an off week for us.
Yes, great call out. Great call out. So yeah, no episode in betwixt Christmas and New Year's, but then we'll have one hot off the presses the first week of the next year. Thanks everybody so much for listening. If you're still listening, and we hope you have a super okay day. Say goodbye, Brodie.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, y'all. Love you.